finance director, district officers, and of course, my board buddy, the amazing Golden Lady, Lark Doley, and members of District 85. Oh, sorry, 55. My apologies. I was so moved by your banner parade. I thought, oh no, Lark and I are in the same room, so there is going to be tears because it's so emotional. But then when you started bringing the rock and roll music, and I was just singing away, thinking, thank goodness we are virtual, because I didn't have a teacher like Mrs. Montgomery. My teacher, Mrs. Henderson, said to me in music class, Margaret, from now on, just mouth the words. So if we would have been in person, I'm sure you would all be saying, slow it down, Margaret, slow it down. But let me ask you all here, we had an invitation to say a woo-hoo when your district banner came along. So I'm going to ask you this question. If you were invited to speak in front of an audience of 1,700, if you would say yes, woo-hoo, put it in the chat. And if you would say no, whatever goes with that, no way, no, whatever, go ahead and put it in the chat. Let's see what we've got. Woo-hoo, woo, yes, yes. No, thank you. Tina, sure, Jim says. Wow. Whoa, yes, wahoo. That must be Texas, y'all, with the, what would be the Texas cry? Yeehaw, yeehaw. I was born in Calgary and we were home of the Calgary Stampede. So that's what we would say in Calgary is yeehaw. Well, I think so many said woo-hoo because you are District 55, home district of past international president Lark Doley, who spoke in front of an audience of 35,000, and the world champion Mike Carr, who spoke in front of, he is the world champion that spoke in front of the largest audience Toastmasters has ever had. Well, in 2001, I received a call inviting me to speak to an audience of 1,700. And I could no more do that than I could sprout wings, grow horns, or leap over tall buildings. I immediately said no and absolutely put it out of my mind. A couple months later, when I was at that conference where I was invited to speak and share my company's success story with other franchisees and other people in the same industry. There we were at the tables, at the round tables. I had my managers there, beautiful dinner that we had. And after dinner, they introduced the topic, which is sharing business success strategies, and called up the person that sat on the table next to us. Now, that franchisee's stores came second to my stores being number one in the Southwest market, which at the time was Nevada, California, Utah, and Arizona. And so when this gentleman went up stage and began talking about his success strategies, my staff of 6 managers looked up at him on the stage and looked at me at the table and lifted their eyebrows. All I could do was look down at the red wine stain that was in front of me and attempt to rub it off the table in hopes that if I could get that off, then perhaps I would be cleansed also of not being capable of sharing their success story. They had worked so hard and given so much. And yet when I was asked to share their story, I couldn't do it. Up to that point in time, I had many opportunities to speak. I always turned it down. I always found another way in the community to have someone else be the spokesperson. I do some of the work, but no, I'm not going to be the speaker on anything. And so I felt I'd always let myself down, but that was okay. But that day in 2001, I had let down those people at the table, and I knew I couldn't let that continue on. It still took me 2 years before I stumbled into my first Toastmasters meeting. But when I did, my life transformed. Kathy asked me to share today my story of how Toastmasters has benefited my life. And as I was thinking about this speech or this talk to you, I thought there isn't an avenue in my life that Toastmasters hasn't enriched and transformed. It's made a difference everywhere. But when I walked into that club that morning and joined the club, I didn't speak. It was October. And I didn't speak till January. That year, my New Year's resolution was that no matter what, I would answer the table topics. No matter what, I would go up there for the very first time. Well, the first meeting in the new year, table topics came. I was invited to come up. I said yes. I went up, and the table topics master asked me, why is New Year's January 1st? Now, if anyone in the room knows why, please put it in their chat. So next time I'm asked that at Table Topics, I can answer the question. But I certainly couldn't that day. Nonetheless, I babbled away for about 20 seconds, sat down, but felt that it was a huge success for me. It was that one step forward that made the difference. About 18 months later, I received a call from the club president saying that all the club officers would be out of town, but they were having at the senior center a political debate. And would I be willing to be the master of ceremonies for that political debate? He said all the club officers would be out of town or had guests coming in. We lived in a retirement area. And so on weekends, we often would get guests. And he said, there's no one else, Margaret, but the senior center has asked us to do that. Would you do that for the club? And while my mouth said, yes, I can, the voice in my head said, you can't do that. But I rationalized in the weeks to come. I thought, I used to visit my mother-in-law in the senior center, and at 1:00 in the afternoon, they're all having naps. There's only a few people in the living room there. And how hard can that be? In the last 18 months, I've learned how to plan a meeting. I've learned how to chair a meeting. And, my Toastmasters has taught me a lot about timing and management. And so you'll be okay. So the day of the debate came, and as a good Toastmaster would do, I scheduled myself to be there an hour early. When I arrived in front of the senior center, I was amazed. There was a mobile TV unit outside. I thought, someone very important must have died, and the funeral must have been this morning. I went inside, and in this big cavernous room, they were putting up chairs. I thought, oh, the funeral must be in here, but I must be moderating the debate somewhere else. So I looked for someone who knew what they were doing, and I said, I'm to moderate the federal debate here today. Can you direct me to the right location? And the woman said, it's here. Oh, man. If I could have fallen on the floor to get to a hospital, if I could have died, fainted, whatever to get me out of that room, I had no comprehension that it would be of this magnitude. I had imagined there would be 6 or 7 candidates and maybe 20 people, just like my Toastmasters meeting. What could I do? I wanted out of there. I wanted out of there. But what could I do? I had told my club that I would do it and represent them. A little old granny came up to me and handed me 2 pieces of paper. And she said, this is the question I'm going to ask the candidates. Well, after 18 months of Toastmasters, I knew a page and a half is not a question. That is a political statement. And if everyone in the audience was given 7 minutes to do a speech, how could the candidates have their opportunity to answer? So I quickly did all the math in my head and said, ma'am, you have 30 seconds to ask your question. And if you don't ask it in that time, I will begin the clapping and you will have to sit down. Thank goodness for Toastmaster training. Well, I got through that event. It turned out one of the candidates was the leader of the opposition party in Canada, and his retirement home was where I lived on the Sunshine Coast. So all the press and all the mobile TV units were really there to see him. But I tell you, I sweated through that. Thank goodness for Toastmasters that gave me the tools to survive, because otherwise I am sure I would still be trying to live that experience down. Luckily, they don't care a darn about moderators. All they care about is the candidates picking at each other. So it was another blessing. Several months later, I received a call from the cable TV station saying, you did such a great job moderating that debate. Would you be willing to come be an interview host for us for our weekly TV program? Well, my mouth said, yes, I can do that. But the voice in my head said, you can't do that. You don't know anything about TV. But thank goodness I've been going to Toastmasters, where each and every week you learn something new. You learn it from your fellow Toastmasters. You learn it through the education program. You learn it through the Cub model, and the learning just doesn't stop. I went and did the interview show, and eventually I went on to produce some cable TV shows. I was invited to have a radio show on a cable radio channel, and the doors of opportunity kept unlocking and opening for me because of Toastmasters. I went off to a campaign school because, after all this political involvement, I should know more about campaigning. So I went off to a campaign school, and lo and behold, next thing I knew, I'm a campaign manager for what we call a provincial election. In your world, it would be a state election. This is pretty big time. I had a volunteer team of 160. And wow, did I learn a lot. That door only opened because of Toastmasters. But the doors kept opening and opening. I started a campaign school of my own where I took the lessons that I had learned at Toastmasters, took the lessons that I had learned in the campaign school, married them together, and provided new opportunities for women running for political office. I became a coach and mentor to many women running for political office. And so my life keeps evolving and enriching because of Toastmasters. Some of that is volunteer work, of course. And so you really want to know probably about my career and how I financially get paid. Well, campaign managers do get paid, and coaching for women in political office do get paid, which is absolutely wonderful. And because of COVID and because of Toastmasters, our ability to transform so quickly and be resilient and get on the Zoom platform, this last year, I have probably done 20 presentations called Lights, Camera, Action about how companies, boards of trades, associations, cities can use the platform and lead better meetings in whatever organization they are. So in so many ways, everything that I benefit from in my career really comes from Toastmasters. I feel like one-on-one with people, I am much better than I have ever been before. I've been a business owner since I was 21, but it is really different when you are involved with a not-for-profit and you have to appeal to people to do things and you're not paying them. You need to become a much more persuasive, impactful, and I think heartfelt person. I feel I have been enriched because of the experience of being a volunteer leader. If I hadn't been a district director, I don't know that I would have the ability to connect with people the way I do now. I just have a more expansive idea of people and their passions, their concerns, their commitments, their caring. And of course, this year we've experienced so much more than we ever had before. As your district director has said, it's been a new world, and it's caused us new thought or required us to have new thought. And so here we are, learning from each other as Toastmasters have always done. And so I feel it's the one-on-one learning that has made so valuable in my life, but also the leading meetings has made a significant impact. How many of you, if you have attended a meeting virtually where it has been a cacophony of people speaking at the same time and no one leading, no one chairing? Go ahead and put that in the chat. Been there. Someone said, yes, yes. Sometimes even in Toastmasters. Well, hopefully we've learned a lot. We've learned a lot, but certainly meetings, leading meetings, that has been a gift through Toastmasters that has really advanced my life and my career, and even my family, as I've hosted virtual dinners on the Zoom platform, where we've been able to organize that more effectively than we just would have had a dinner in our room. And of course, thanks to Toastmasters, I can now do presentations. I still haven't grown wings or sprouted horns, but I feel sometimes like I can jump over tall buildings. You know, that team that I led way back in 2001, I didn't get to share their success story with that group of people that evening. But in 2012, 2013, as your district director shared with you, I was the district director of District 21. And we just kind of rolled right into being distinguished by the hair on our chinny chin. But that year, I learned so much about working as a team versus just being on a team. And what I like to say the difference is, and it can be sometimes difficult when we compare ourselves to the corporate world and we look at their mission, we look at their vision, and we look at their goals and people that are spending 40 hours or 60 hours at their work. But in our teamwork in Toastmasters, I do believe that we have to keep it simple. We have to keep our goals simple, and we have to make sure that everyone benefits from it and that everyone understands what the goal is. And when you do that, when you make it simple and when you make it easy for everyone to understand and that everyone benefits, they're not only excited about reaching their own goals, but they are excited by helping those beside them reach their goals as well. And I think that's one of the greatest blessings of Toastmasters, is that we care so deeply about each other. But along my Toastmasters journey, I've learned all sorts of other lessons, not just about about teamwork, but I've also learned that when we want to get someone to do a job, it's not necessarily about asking them to do a task, but we as leaders need to look at those individuals that we have on our team and see their strengths and identify that to them. Share with them their identity of who they are. I like to reference another world champion that we had, was Danajaya from District 82, I believe. And his famous lines were, "I see something in you." Although the line after that was, "I don't know quite what it is, but I see something in you." And we as district leaders, and this is what I certainly learned at Toastmasters, is we need to see those pieces in other people and share that with them. Because as we go through life, we have a lot of things going on in our brains of, "I can't do that. I'm not good enough. I'm too old. I'm too young. I'm too from Texas. I'm too from Canada. I'm too something." And so we need to help people still that in their brains and let them know what they're good at. So it's about helping them understand who they are. So my lesson came as an area director when a past district governor came to me one day and said, "Margaret, we see some leadership in you, and we'd love to help you build on that. Would you be willing to be area director?" I told her I would if she would mentor me. Now, I had already owned many businesses and I had many successes in the business world. But what she said to me that day is, "We see some leadership in you." When you're a boss of a business, your staff, your employees don't often say that to you. "We see leadership in you," or "We see critical thinking in you," or "We see whatever blessing the person has, whatever their secret sauce, their X factor, whatever it is." We need to be able to see that in them and then share that with them. Just like we share the strengths that we see in a speech, we also need to share the strengths of the individual. And then they're far more likely to want to serve in a capacity when we are helping them step into the identity of who they are or who they would like to be. Clearly, way back there, when I was asked to be area director, I wanted to own the title of being a leader. I don't know why. Why was that different from being an owner or a boss? But there was something very nurturing to my soul when she said that to me, that we see some leadership in you. We believe in you. And of course, in my work world and in my family, I've taken those learnings from Toastmasters about seeing in people what they can be and sharing them. Sometimes we're not always role modeled that in our own family or in the businesses that we are at, but we can certainly take the Toastmaster experience and share it with others. We are guardians of the Toastmaster experience. And as we look at our new world, our watershed moment, our moment of stepping into the new world with new thoughts, we can take those new thoughts with us. And on Sunday morning, I'll be sharing some of those ideas with you when I deliver my keynote. We will talk about shaping the future. I know you're in for an exciting conference. You have stellar ed sessions, great networking, fun opportunities. And I would like to leave you with this message. I would like to congratulate the 8 clubs that have already been declared presidents, distinguished Toastmasters. Absolutely, round of applause. And I'd like to North San Antonio Club, Texas Talkers, New Braunfels, West Austin 2, Aim High, UT Sciences Toastmasters, Lakeline Toastmasters, and Balcones. That was a little bit self-serving on my part because when I was the division director, my theme was Aim High because it was H for high. And so when I saw your successful club, Aim High, I thought I have to find a way to acknowledge Aim High because that club I have a connection with and will someday visit. But let me leave you with some final words, is that as you go through life, one smile can start a friendship. One word can end a fight. One look can save a relationship. One person can change your life. Be that person at Toastmasters to change others' life. Back to you, Madam District Director.
Thank you so much, Margaret. There was so much in your presentation tonight. I don't even know how to boil it down to anything, but I think the wow moment for several of us was that expression, being the guardians of the Toastmasters experience. That is something that I think a lot of us are going to go home and talk about. But what a wonderful getting to know you session. What a wonderful lesson on teamwork and leadership. And what fantastic inspirational words. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your experience with District 55 tonight.